Hello there, Rosewood Gaming here. A friend of mine recently got me into Magic the Gathering, so I wanted to showcase a deck I've been playing. I've never really done a deck profile before in Magic, so I'm not exactly sure how I want to go about this. And because I'm still learning, there's probably a few things I don't entirely know, so if I get anything wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments below. Before I get into the deck profile, I just wanted to give a shout out to my friend Zhanzu, Z-H-A-N-Z-U, as well as to the YouTube channels of Team APS, as well as Tularian Community College, mainly due to the fact that I do like their content, and I think you should give them a follow if you aren't already. So I'm going to start with the lands I'm playing in this deck. I don't remember the exact quantity ratio I have, but I believe I'm running 12 copies of the Forest, as well as 10 Mountains, due to the fact that my deck is primarily green, but it does have a bit of red as well, so I wanted to make sure I have a good amount of each. I'm also running a single copy of Evolving Wilds to search my lands whenever I need them, as well as Kessig Wolf Run, since it's just a colorless mana which can be used, but it also benefits from the red and green I play in this deck since I can make my creatures stronger. And I also play a single Gateway Plaza. I was told I should probably run a little more than just one copy of some cards in my deck, but Magic is actually kind of expensive, and I'm still learning. So I'm going to just update over time as I need to. I then play a total of 3 enchantments, though some of them I'm not entirely sure what they do, and by some I mean one in particular. The first one, though, is Rune of Might. Simply put, it just draws me a card when it enters the field, which makes my deck effectively smaller. But it also gives any enchanted card a +1/+1, as well as trample. So it lets me deal some burst damage on top of a draw. I then play Arachniform, which basically gives my creature a +2/+2 and have reach, so I can block creatures with flying. I don't entirely know if the last bit is relevant, though, where it makes my creature treated as every creature type. If someone can just let me know what the relevance to that is in the comments below. The one card I'm not entirely sure how it works is this Enchantment Saga, but I plan to ask my friend Zhanzu later, or maybe my locals, if they can explain that to me at some point. But whatever it means, from what I see, it lets me discard my hand, then draw 2 cards, and then if a red card I control deals damage, that damage is increased by 2. So I think, as an example, if I deal like 3 damage off of a card, that damage instead goes from 3 to 5. Again, I'm not entirely sure how sagas work, but I plan to find out as soon as I can. I then play a few instants in this deck because it's built more so to deal burst damage as quickly as I can. But I also have some defensive cards, such as 4 copies of Ranger's Guile. It effectively makes my creature immune to all my opponent's cards until the end of the turn, but it also gives them +1/+1, which makes them a bit bigger, which can help in some instances, either with taking down an opponent's card or with keeping my card safe. I then play a single copy of Bargain. It just makes my creatures bigger, and each non-human creature of mine that attacks gains trample until the end of the turn, which helps a lot since I don't think I actually run any human creatures in this deck, but I'll find out as we go through the video. I then play a copy of Jaya's Greeting, which is what I was getting with on that Saga card, since it deals 3 damage to my opponent, so I'm just curious if that would go from 3 to 5. It says Scry 1, and I'm not sure if that's the similar concept as Excavation in Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is my primary game I play. But if I'm understanding correctly, it lets you look at the top card of your deck only. I'm not sure if it adds it to your hand or not, though. Lastly, for the instance, I play a card that's a 2-in-1. Collision as well as Colossus. I think this is a card where you choose one or the other, not both. So, if I'm understanding that correctly, I can either deal 6 damage to target creature with flying, or a target creature of mine gets +4/+2 and trample until the end of the turn. If someone can correct me if I'm wrong on how this card works, I would appreciate that. I then play 4 sorceries. 2 copies of Prey Upon just forces a battle between 2 creatures on the field, which is a more familiar concept to me when it comes to battles, with Yu-Gi-Oh! As I mentioned. Open the Gates, which can search my library for any basic land or gate card, and put it into my hand, which helps again with consistency as it makes my deck even smaller. I then play 1 single copy of Wolf's Quarry. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that. Some of these names I'm probably pronouncing wrong, so I do apologize. But it creates 3 1/1 green boar creature tokens, with the effect that when it dies, it creates a food token. And then I can sacrifice that food token to gain 3 life back, so it can just help out in the long run if the game goes on for a good while, which, in Magic, I'm pretty sure games last, like, forever, unlike Yu-Gi-Oh!, where games nowadays either end in 1 turn, or you just stun the hell out of your opponent and they can't play the game at all, and GG easy. For my artifacts, I play 1 copy of the Traveler's Amulet. I can just sacrifice it to search my land for a basic library card. Again, just makes my deck smaller. Helps with consistency, as then, even though I'm running a lot of cards at 1 copy, I basically have a higher chance of seeing them now, since I don't have as many cards to go through. Then the only other artifact I'm playing in this deck is Raider's Carve. Not entirely sure how to pronounce that. But when it attacks, I can look at the top card of my library, and if it's a land card, it gets put on the field tapped, so I can't use it this turn. But it helps with thinning my deck even more, like most of the cards I'm playing so far do. But to attack, I have to crew 3, which I'm not exactly sure if I understand correctly, but I think, like, I sacrifice any amount of creatures whose power is 3 or more, and then this card becomes a creature. Someone's gonna have to correct me if I got that wrong. I'm still learning, as I mentioned, but I think that's how it works. You do something with your creatures to let this attack. Speaking of creatures, the first 3 I have are Golden Hind. I don't really use it for offensive or defensive reasonings. I mainly play it because it's a free land, effectively. Once I get it to the board, I effectively get additional land for each copy. So I play 3 copies just so I could see it more frequently, but no more than 3 just because it does cost 2 mana effectively, 1 forest and 1 of any color. So I have to wait at least 2 turns to get it onto the board. But once I get it on the board, it makes it easier for me to play my other cards, because then starting the turn afterwards, I have 4 mana. And if I happen to have 2 more copies in my hand, I can then go from 4 mana to 7 on the next turn after that. I then play 1 copy of the Horizon Seeker. I don't know what it means by boast, but I could play 1 forest and 1 of any color to search my land for a library card and place it in my hand and then shuffle my deck. And gotta read this again. Activate. Sorry, my camera's a bit staticky. Activate this ability only if this creature attacks this turn and only once each turn. So if I'm understanding correctly, I think I actually have to attack with it first before I can search for land. I could be wrong there, though, but if I am understanding that correctly, at least that means I somewhat know something. I then play 2 Ferocious Pups. I would play more because I love wolves, but unfortunately I only actually own the 2 copies. But I think that's fine because they cost 3 mana, and they have no offensive power whatsoever. So you're really only going to use them as a defensive tool, and to get the free 2/2 green wolf creature token that they each generate. I then play, and this is a mouthful, 1 copy of Call Sisma Behemoth. I'm probably butchering that name, so I apologize for any professional Magic players who is cringing in their seats at my mispronunciations. I might replace this just because I didn't realize until now that it can't attack unless I play 2 mana. Same with blocking. But I mean, at least it's a 5/5 for 3 mana, so it's not that big of an issue, I feel. I then play 1 copy of Beast Whisperer. Whenever I cast a creature, which I believe includes tokens, I get to draw 1 card, so effectively I have like an infinite draw loop if I can see this as soon as possible. Honestly, I might replace the Behemoth with a 2nd copy of this as soon as I can get my hands on another copy. Things are just a bit difficult with that right now. I then play 1 Frenzied Arynx. It's a cat beast, which I think is one of the creature types. I'm not entirely sure. But it has Riot, so when it enters the battlefield, it gains either +1/+1 or Haste. If I'm going to use this, I think I'm going to just want Haste, because it can just quickly attack them without having to wait the turn. But then you only get that for the 1 turn, whereas the +1/+1 counter, I believe that's permanent, if someone wants to correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong. I then play a few werewolves in this deck. In fact, I play 1 copy each of Shrill Howler and Tangleclaw Werewolf, as well as 3 copies total of Smoldering Werewolf. I don't remember exactly what's on the back of them, but I believe the effects are the same either way. It just changes the attack and I forget what the other stat is called. I think it's like defense or health or something like that. It just like doubles those values, if I'm understanding correctly, when they transform. I play the Fire Wolves mainly due to the fact that they can deal 1 damage to each of 2 creatures when they enter the field. So it might not be a lot, but if you're playing against a field that only has like 1 health on each of their creatures, it's just a free board wipe, effectively. Tangleclaw I play just because it can block up to 2 creatures each combat. And Shrill Howler makes it so creatures with a power weaker than its own can't block it. So it being a 3/1 means anything that's 3 or lower cannot block it, if I'm understanding correctly. I then play 1 Nyxborn Colossus. It's just a big guy I can summon. He does cost 6 mana though, 3 forests, and then 3 of any other color. But for a 6/7, I think that's honestly perfectly fine. It's just free damage, effectively. I then play 1 Sirkara the Bold. And whenever it or an instant or sorcery I control deals damage to my opponent, I can exile the top card of my library, which helps with thinning my deck since I can then play that card this turn. The only thing I'm not sure is if I have to pay any mana costs for any card with mana that gets revealed this way. But once I get this on the field, it just lets me thin my deck more and more. I might try to get a 2nd copy at some point, but for now I'm just sticking with the 1 because it does cost 5 mana, 2 red and 3 of any other color. I then play 1 Atali Primal Storm. If I'm being honest, this is probably my current favorite card in Magic, as whenever it attacks, the top card of each player's deck gets exiled, and I can just play any card that's exiled this way that's not a land, without paying their mana costs. I actually played this against someone at my locals one time, and I think I banished like a card that costs like 10 mana, 2 of each color. I don't remember what it was called though, but they kind of rage quit after that. Finally for the deck, I have 1 copy of Arlen, Voice of the Pack, since I play a lot of wolves, as well as 1 copy of Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. I play them mainly because I can get tokens, and whenever I play a wolf or werewolf while Arlen's on the field, it just gets bigger and stronger. Whereas Nissa can make any creature stronger, or give me life equal to the number of lands I control. It does take a bit, though, for me to use the life effect, since I'd have to wait until like at least 4 turns after I use the first effect to do so, though I think it would sacrifice itself, so I'd probably have to wait till at least 5. But yeah, that's the deck I'm currently playing and using to learn how to play Magic. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I've never done a Magic the Gathering deck list profile video before, so I do hope that this was at least somewhat accurate on how to go about it. Feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. And once we reach 100 subscribers, if we could do so before the end of the year, I'm actually going to be doing something very big for all of you. So stay tuned, share with your friends, maybe get them to subscribe, and I'll see you soon.